And then I say, if only we could just say the magic words. And I introduce the magic words earlier in the act. I tell people the magic words are mass action for a radical transformation of society, from a society based on profit to a society based on human need. And I ask them all to join in with that.
And then the newspaper remarkably comes together.
Yeah, apart from one little bit, and there's a hole in the newspaper, and I find the piece of paper on the floor, and I say, look, there's always one little group that won't go along with it. I started criticising myself very strictly and very hard, and they agreed with me.
Well,
That
didn't work.
It didn't work. So the looks as though we're talking at the same time. Oh, personally, I think you should leave that out.
It's variety.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Variety Show podcast with me, Adam Sternberg. Now, today's guest is a leading performer of socialist magic tricks. We will find out precisely what that means later on. He has been doing them for more than 40 years, so at least he is very, very persistent. And persistence, I believe, does pay off. So can I welcome today's podcast, Ian Saville. Hello, Ian.
Hello, Adam, and thank you for having me.
You are more than welcome. As I tend to do on this podcast, I like just to get an inkling of how you started, where you're from. So, yes, where were you born?
Where was I born? I was born in London, in Whitechapel, in what was called the London Hospital then. It's now called the Royal London Hospital.
Where my grandson was born.
Oh,
actually,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So this was a long time ago, before anybody rich lived in that area. Maybe after, there might have been rich people living there in the 19th century, I don't know. But certainly not when we lived. It was a predominantly Jewish area. I was born to a Jewish family, apparently. It says in my Wikipedia entry that I was born to a Jewish family. It doesn't say that I'm Jewish, but I am.
You were both born to a Jewish family and Jewish.
And I'm Jewish.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you could just say I'm Jewish, couldn't it?
Yeah, so you could be born to a Jewish family and decide you're not Jewish, I suppose.
You could, yes.
You see, I have a slight problem because despite my surname, my mother wasn't Jewish, my father was. Right. So theoretically, I'm not.
Halakhically, you are not Jewish.
I'm not Jewish.
Well, I think in some Jewish circles, you would be. You could pass as Jewish.
Well, that's good. I have to find those circles.
I think the liberal Jewish, or whatever it's called now.
So, and your parents, were they performers or? No,
not at all. My father worked in betting shops, actually, which I hate to say it now, but I was a little bit ashamed of that when I was a child. Because it seemed, it wasn't quite right. But, he worked very hard and he worked in betting shops. My mother also went out to work, which not all women did at that time. But she worked in various things, including she worked in Bloom's restaurant in Whitechapel.
I did know it well.
It's not there anymore, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
No.
I went with my parents when I was young.
Definitely. Oh, right, okay. And they didn't stop you at the door because your father, because your mother wasn't Jewish?
My matzo ball soup or whatever I had there. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been interesting. So did you go and have food there from time to time?
I did, actually. I used to go there. I was at school, a school called Davenant Foundation, just for 1 year, which was in Whitechapel. And while I was there, I used to walk up the road, up Whitechapel Road to Bloom's, and I'd get served a bowl of soup and lokshen. So that was my lunch.
Better than McDonald's. Oh, sorry to anyone who's watching from McDonald's, but still.
Yeah, I think it became a Burger King, actually. Bloom's. It's horrible.
Well, that is where the world, isn't it? Yeah. Unfortunately. So, as a young child going to school, what did you sort of excel at? What did you enjoy?
I was very lazy, so I had all these reports that said that recognised I was quite clever, but I could do much better. That's what I was good at was English. and eventually drama when we did productions, school productions.
So would that you'd have been slightly older then in
secondary school. We moved after that first year when I was at Davenant Foundation. We moved, actually the school moved as well, out to Debden, I think. So we moved to Hackney. So I went to Hackney Downs School, formerly the Grocers' Company School. It had been a grammar school, and in fact, I was there as in the last year of grammar school intake, and then it became a comprehensive, which really was much better. It had great teachers, and it had been the school that Harold Pinter went to.
Oh.
He was a sort of bit of a hero.
Did he ever pop in on prize giving?
No,
and
he
give
never
you a
did
copy
that.
of a play signed?
No, but he wrote in his autobiography or memoir about a particular teacher who had really inspired him at Hackney Downs, a teacher called Joe Brearley, who was still there.
When you were there?
When I was there, yeah.
From my interviews with other magicians, how this seems to often have worked is you get a magic game kit for a present and you think, wow, this is amazing. And it sort of starts from there.
Yes, I think, well, I got those things. I got the magic set when I was younger. Then at Woolworths, my mum found a couple of books on magic, Peter Warlock, I think, and somebody else, I can't remember. And I read them, and they were about tricks, but also about, how you presented yourself as a magician. I got very interested in that. And then I got together a magic act, and then I started going to magic shops in the West End, particular magic shops, Harry Stanley, in the Soho area, and Davenport.
Davenport's for sure. Yeah. Can you sort of describe what was that like going into those shops? That one in Soho. I mean, can you picture it now?
Yeah, I can. You walked up the stairs to this studio with cabinets on the wall with all sorts of strange-looking objects, and there was a man there who was behind the counter was a magician called Alan Allen, who. I later, I mean, he was still around up until, 10 years ago. He was sort of quite a regular person who used to be there at the Magic Circle. You'd come in and he'd look at you with sort of rather skeptical smile, as if to say, "What are you doing here? I'm not sure
How
I
old
want you
have
in."
You been at this point?
I would have been about 13
or
so, 13 or 14. And he'd say, "What can I do you for?" That was always his opening line. Yeah. "What can I do you for?" And then, I mean, I bought one or two things there, and
Would you know what you wanted before you go there, or would you have a look?
Not really, no. I'd go there, and he would he'd show you some things, and sometimes Harry Stanley himself was there, who was the owner.
So what type of thing? Are you talking about props? Or are you talking about...
Props, yeah. Sometimes books. Yeah, I remember he sold me a particular book. And so, yes, he showed me a trick, and he said, "You'll find this in this book here," and a lot of other books, book by Louis Ganson called Routine Manipulations. And so I started looking at books and finding these tricks that you could do. We went to Butlins for our holiday.
Yeah.
And I entered the talent contest at Butlins.
And you were 14, 15?
Yeah, 13, 14. Up to about 16 or 17.
So that's quite confident of you.
Yeah. I kept winning heats at this talent contest, which meant we had to go back. I think my parents got a bit fed up
Because you had to keep going back.
we had to keep going back to. We went to different places like Puffwelly and places for the semi-finals and here and there and everywhere. I always did sort of comedy magic.
And this was stage show as opposed to close up.
Yeah, no. Close up was not
a thing then.
It was a thing, but it wasn't so much of a thing.
Sorry, just to put this in context. At that time, who were the big magicians? The type of people that would have influenced you?
Well, the big magicians, I suppose. David Nixon had his show on television. I mean, Tommy Cooper.
You were watching Tommy? Yeah.
Tommy Cooper. We went and I one holiday in Bournemouth or Eastbourne. I can't remember which. We saw Tommy Cooper.
You saw him live?
Yeah.
Amazing. What was that like?
Tommy Cooper. Frankie Vaughan was on the bill as well.
What?
It was amazing. It was because he used to start his show, his live show. There was nobody on stage, but you heard his voice.
That's
saying,
very, very well
Where
known.
am I? What's happening? It's all dark in here. It's all dark. And he's obviously, he was in the, you were led to believe that he couldn't find his way out of the dressing room and the lights were off. And and for 10 minutes, he kept this up. And by the time he actually fumbled his way onto the stage, the whole audience was in complete uproar because it was so funny.
Because he had it all, didn't he? He had the voice, his physicality. I mean, he was a big man.
Yeah. And
the humour.
And yeah.
Because you almost forget about the magic, because a lot of his magic is sort of spoof magic. There are things that going wrong.
I mean, I think he thought of himself as a comedian.
As a comedian.
But he was very, very interested in magic. He loved magic, but he thought of his act as a comedy act.
But I suppose in the same way as Les Dawson, in order to play the piano badly, had to be really, really good. So I presume Tommy Cooper had to be a really good magician.
Well, people assume that. I don't know how good he was. I mean, I think there's a thing, I wrote something about this once, and people want to believe that if they're laughing at comedy magic, that really, although he's getting it wrong, he's really, really good at it. You feel less of a fool going along with it if you think that he's really a very good magician. And I think he was probably a reasonably good magician, and some things that he did, he could do very well because he'd done them hundreds of times. But I don't think he wasn't a particularly amazing manipulator.
Because it was more to do with the whole package, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was an incredible comedian, and he could make a joke work that wasn't very funny.
And there's...
and he could just say these jokes. I went to the doctor the other day. I said, "Could you help me out?" He said, "Yes, the same way you came in." It's not much of a joke, but
it's literally the way you tell him, or the way he tells them.
The way he told them.
It's the way he told them.
When I was 15, I used to do a little bit in my act where I used to put on a fez and impersonate.
Did you?
Jim,
and the voice?
And yeah. I mean, everybody could do the voice, but there's a story of him being in the Middle East or being in Turkey or somewhere, and there's a stall with people, a man selling fezzes, and Tommy Cooper goes over and picks up a fez and puts it on his head, and the man behind the stall says, "Just like that." Tommy Cooper says, "Well, what do you mean? Just how do you know my act then?" And he says, "No, I just know whenever English people put on the fez, they say, just like that." He had no idea that it was Tommy Cooper or anything. It was just
the association of the fez and that.
Every English person, apart from Tommy Cooper, when they put the fez on, they said, just like that.
That's hilarious. And I suppose correct me if I'm wrong, but there's been nothing quite like that before or since. I mean, in terms of the comedy element to the magic.
There have been comedy magicians. I've forgotten the name. There was an American magician that was quite similar in a way to, and also there was Sandy Powell, who was an English comedian, and he did a sort of, I mean, it was just one act that he did, which was a cod magic act. You can find it on YouTube, like everything nowadays. And he also did a cod sort of ventriloquist act. Both of them incredibly funny. He didn't live on that. He did all sorts of other
But in
comedy
terms of
things.
having a character, which is your persona to develop magic. Because it seems to me a lot of magic these days, on some levels, is very earnest.
Yeah.
It's very technical. It's very, very good. But
I'm not very good.
You're just very funny, which is like...
I did. Well, probably like Tommy Cooper, I've got good at the things that I do a lot. So I know that. And I do ventriloquism as well. I know you've spoken a lot
we had
ventriloquist.
Max
Fulham.
I was going to say Max Clifford, which is
technically
the wrong person. Max Fulham on.
Yeah,
was
great. I heard that.
Yeah, he was
very,
really
very
good.
Nice. Yeah.
You obviously then continued your magic. You went to, I presume you went to university?
I did,
Where you can't do a magic degree, so you were doing something...
Well, I did. I went to university. I like a lot of people of my generation, I was the first in my family to go to university. I went to Exeter. I actually auditioned. I mean, at that time, if you wanted to do drama or English and drama, as I did, it was very competitive to get into university. You know, there were only...
They were the most popular courses or some of the most popular courses.
Yeah. They were among the most popular courses. So I had to do... We had a weekend in Exeter where I had to audition for... I mean, I had on the English side, I had a sort of interview and they asked me about poetry and John Donne.
Yes, metaphysics sort of and stuff.
And so I did an audition, and for part of my audition, they had sort of workshop weekends, improvisation workshops and things. But I did my magic act as well, which I don't think they'd ever had anybody do that as part of their audition. So they took me on, and I studied English and drama, and got a degree, and it was quite a practical course. It was a sort of project-based course, so we didn't go chronologically through the history of drama. You did a thing on Commedia dell'arte, or you did something a little bit on Shakespeare, and they got a director in to talk to you.
And you would act, I presume. There'd be
I would act, yeah. And I was a good actor.
So was there any point in your life...
I still am a good actor.
Was there any point in your life that's what you wanted to be, an actor?
Always. I still do. I still do. Actually, a couple of years ago, I did the Christmas before last. The writer of this pantomime, the JW3 pantomime, at the Jewish Cultural Centre, JW3. He'd seen me several times at the Jewish Socialist Group events, and he asked me if I would be in the pantomime at JW3. Same writer has put these three pantos on.
So the Jewish panto follow the same traditions as a conventional panto?
Oh, absolutely.
So you have pantomime dames and you have...
Absolutely. The structure is... The director was very keen on this, on following, you had to have a messy scene, and you had to have...
And singing.
And singing, and I had to do singing and dancing as well. So I was a sort of... I was doing magic, but I was a sort of fairy godfather.
So you were doing some magic within the show. So you were sort of a special act.
I was a magician, but it wasn't. It was within the narrative.
And the narrative was original, so that was created. It wasn't like a Mother Goose Israeli Mother Goose.
The show was titled Goldie Frocks and the Bear Mitzvah.
Ah, okay.
Goldie
So
Frocks.
a nice little bit of punning there.
Yeah, so it was sort of based on Goldilocks.
Yes.
The Goldilocks in this, and there were bears.
Yes.
There were 3 bears,
Yes.
and they were all Jewish bears, and she was a seamstress. It was set sort of in the 50s and 60s, and it was really a sort of anti-capitalist show. So Nick Kassenbaum, who wrote it, was quite into sort of, I mean, within that framework, you can put in all sorts of little political
and songs
ideas.
were original or your rework?
No, and now Josh, the musical director, had a thing that all the songs, I mean, he'd use original, music that was from shows or from well-known tunes and pop music.
And rewrite the words.
And rewrite the words. But this was very important. There always had to be a Jewish connection. It had to have been written by a Jewish person.
Well, that's most of the aren't they anyway?
Well, that's true. Or else sung by
anything from Fiddler on the Roof or any other musical.
Yeah. Well,
Oscar Hammerstein being a
yeah.
Sondheim.
Yeah. In fact, it would have been more of a challenge if there was no Jewish connection. That's true. But so we did that. I mean, the cast.
How many nights did that run for?
Oh, I did. It was 3 weeks.
Also a long run.
3 or 4 weeks. 3 weeks, and with 2 matinees a week.
And is that happening again this year?
Well, I'm not sure. It happened last year. I haven't heard whether it's going to be happening this year. I mean, I didn't. It was a very lovely cast. And what we were talking about was being an actor.
Yes.
And what that reminded me of was working in a company as an actor.
A community, yes.
And there was a lot of, work with the director, with the writer. I would suggest things and suggest gags or jokes or whatever, bits and pieces which we could put in, and my bits of magic were sort of under my control. And we hired a big illusion as well as a sort of final thing.
Hold on for a minute. Let's actually then go back to my original description of you as a socialist magician.
Yeah, because nobody knows what that is yet.
Tell me what that is and where that came from.
I joined a theatre group, this theatre group called Broadside Mobile Workers Theater. And it, amazingly enough, it was a radical socialist theatre group which had Arts Council funding. Not very much.
Wouldn't get that now.
No, definitely not. Because at that time, you could be Arts Council funded. You could be a theatre group and just get funding rather than having to submit an idea for a project and get that funded. And then you've got nothing, so all the actors have to disperse and go and find other jobs. And then you maybe, the directors maybe apply for some more funding and so on. No, we had funding for the group to carry on doing whatever it wanted to do. We had about 3 plays in repertoire, and we performed them sometimes in theatres, but also on picket lines or at demonstrations, or even at one point we had, this was at a time when workers were taking over their factories, occupying factories. And we went up to Liverpool. Plessey's factory at that time was under occupation from the workers. And we went and performed our play, which was about multinational company, in fact, their company. I would also do magic tricks, actually. So we would do these scenes from a play about Plessy's, and then we'd discuss them with the people watching, the workers. This was a very important part of what we did. We would do discussions.
I get all this. The only thing that strikes me there, though, is you're sort of preaching to the converted there, aren't you? Because the people in the factory, I presume, on your side.
Well, this is I've heard this phrase so many times. Preaching to. No, I'm sorry.
I thought I was being original.
Preaching to the. No, I mean just that phrase.
Yes,
preaching to the converted.
Yes.
And people say, well, it's not very good to just preaching to the converted. But if you think about it, in the church, who are they preaching to? They're almost always preaching to the converted. There might be one or two people at the edge who are not quite converted, and they get converted. They join in.
But by and large, it's not.
What we saw, actually, what happened then was, especially in that situation where people were taking over the factory because there were no jobs, because they'd been made redundant. We spoke to people who'd been made redundant 3 or 4 times because companies were starting up, and then they could get cheaper labor in South America or somewhere. So they'd got grants from the government to start up production, and then they suddenly abandoned them. So people were taking over the factory because they were angry at the way in which they were being treated by the bosses, but they weren't particularly converted to socialism or socialist ideas. And so what we were doing was showing them something. I mean, I think it's in some ways we were maybe being a bit, talking down to them to some extent, and possibly not, not in the most productive way. But we were trying to show them, well, what is it that causes this situation? What is it? What's behind the fact that you keep getting laid off? What is it? What are the forces that create this?
So you're using drama to make them more aware, more engaged?
Yeah, more engaged, to think more, to sit back and think about their own situation.
So this is Brecht. That is Brecht, then, isn't it? It is using theatre to activate people.
Yeah.
But going back, though, to preaching to the converted, do you think it is possible to use theatre to change people's minds? I mean, it must be, I presume, because people seem, particularly at the moment, very set views, whether it be about
and it's
Gaza or Israel or Brexit or whatever it may be. People's views are very entrenched.
Yeah.
How do you disentrench, if that's the word, unentrench people's views?
Yeah. There's a point in my act where I have to be careful because something magical happens and I don't point up the magic of it so people don't clap. Magicians can make people clap by the way in which they hold their body or showing, a cue for the audience to clap. But I don't do the cue so people don't clap. And I say, I'm glad you didn't clap there because that is the exploitative process. And probably a few of you have already been converted by what I did earlier. And probably by the end of this act, you won't clap anything I do. And that's how I know I've succeeded. So I'm sort of ironically playing on that idea that, I don't think that in some ways what I do is preaching to the converted, but that's quite good in some ways. I think people need to enjoy themselves. And they need a bit of hope. They need a bit of affirmation.
No, I think you're right. I think hope is really important.
Yeah.
And I think to be able to engage with people about things which are very serious, but in a manner that's not a party political broadcast, that is entertaining, that is human, I think is important.
There's a level of me taking the mickey out of myself as well, not being too serious. And playing. People know that I am sincerely a socialist and supporting the cause, but that doesn't mean that I can't see the absurdity of some aspects of what we are engaged in. I do a trick where I talk. It's the basic trick is the torn and restored newspaper. I use it to illustrate the way in which the left splits and splits and splits. until you're down to all these little bits of newspaper. And then I say, if only we could just say the magic words. And I introduce the magic words earlier in the act. I tell people the magic words are mass action for a radical transformation of society from a society based on profit to a society based on human need. And I ask them all to join in with that.
And then the newspaper remarkably comes together.
Yeah, apart from one little bit. You see, now this is where magicians do like to have a little kicker, as they call it, at the end. So the newspaper comes together, and people will have noticed that while I was tearing it up, one piece of newspaper fell on the floor, and they think, oh, he's made a mistake. And it goes back together, and I look at it and I say, and there's a hole in the newspaper, and I find the piece of paper on the floor, and I say, look, there's always one little group that won't go along with it. And it fits in that.
And it fits in nicely.
Yeah.
Well, I think this might be a suitable opportunity for you to demonstrate some magic to me, or maybe even teach me something, if that's possible.
Teach you something. Now, I don't know what your previous magicians have done about
shuffling cards, which I dropped.
Yeah, okay, that was all.
Yes, that was all.
So a riffle shuffle,
something,
yeah,
whatever.
Where they
went all over the floor. We're back on with pieces of rope, which I must say you very carefully chose to match the colour of the sofa, which is good.
Oh, it's good.
But,
okay.
No, not bad. It's good.
I thought it might blend in.
No attention to detail.
Yeah, well, red rope. I try to use red rope when possible. So, what we're going to do?
Yes,
I'm going to teach you how to tie a knot.
Yes,
in a piece of rope.
Yes,
obviously you know how to tie a knot in a piece of rope, but without letting go of the ends.
Yes.
Now there are two ways to do this. The first one is very easy, and I'll show you.
Yes.
You put the rope on the table like that.
Yes.
You cross your arms.
Yes.
You hold one end there.
Yes.
And one end there.
Yes.
And then when you uncross your arms,
that's
you've
clever.
got a knot in the middle.
Yes.
Do you want to try that?
I'll try that. You might have to give me a step-by-step instruction.
Okay.
I've never done this before. So, right, like that?
Yeah, so make sure you can get hold of the ends.
Yes. I've
cross your arms. So cross your arms. No, you have to. It's the normal sort of crossing. I thought that wouldn't be the difficult. That's it. Like that. That's it. Yeah.
Well, I might take my jacket off.
Take your jacket off.
I might take my jacket off.
That will probably help. I mean, what you could do is you could get somebody to hand you each end.
No, like that.
Yeah, like that. So.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm there. Yes.
Yeah.
And there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now what do I do?
Now, undo your arms. Just keep holding in the ends.
Is this right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's it.
So this is one of the few things I've done which has actually succeeded.
First time.
I only had to take my jacket off.
Wait, now I'm going to show you the more difficult thing.
Oh, I thought that was the more difficult one.
Yeah. So now, hold one end in each hand.
Yes.
Like that.
Yes.
Now, you're right-handed, aren't you?
Yes.
I know you are.
Yes.
I saw that. I heard you say that you were right-handed somewhere else. Yes, when you're doing this, you're juggling.
That went well. Oh, I managed that as well.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Fifth attempt.
So put this over your wrist.
The right hand.
Yeah.
Over my wrist.
No, from behind.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Right. So hold it.
This is your right hand.
Yeah, right hand.
Yes.
Up.
Yes.
And over.
And over.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
And come down behind the bit that's hanging from your...
That way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then go through... No, from the back. Go through...
From the back. Here. Hold on. Doesn't this
you're getting there. Yeah. And then...
Yes.
Come through the front part of your...
That bit.
Yeah, come through there.
Yes.
Don't move. Don't change the... Just keep it in your hand.
Yes.
Don't move. So just go through with it holding tightly in your hand there.
Yes.
Go through the front bit.
This bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And push right to the front. No. Don't come towards me.
Oh,
pull that hand. No. Through the middle towards me.
Yes.
I don't think this is going to work.
Oh, it might do.
And then pull that one. Well, that's very good because I think you let go.
No, I didn't. That's a knot. I didn't let go.
No, well, you did because you can't actually, because when you do it properly, it becomes like that. It's a slip knot, you see, and you can tell it's a slip knot because if you do that, it slips.
And mine.
And if you and if you and if you do that, it slips the other way, and you can make it slip right off like that. You see.
How do you do that?
That's the bit I can't tell you.
Well, can I just say that? Yes, maybe that's not my forte.
Well, maybe. You did the first one.
I did first,
very
but
well.
1 out of 2. 1 out of 2 is not
Yeah,
not bad.
That was very good.
Are you able to show me any of your ventriloquism?
Ventriloquism.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Ventriloquism.
I can show you my ventriloquism with Karl Marx.
Yes, let me see Karl Marx. We haven't yet to have Karl Marx on the program.
You haven't had Karl Marx on this program?
No, we've yet to have... Let's go and
go and get him.
Go and get him. Okay, so that's Karl Marx.
That's Karl Marx.
Yes.
Okay.
When he did his hair...
Sorry?
When he did his hair, he always has a very fine head of hair and beard.
He did, yeah. He did. Well, there are different... Obviously, this is not a photograph. This is... Yeah. Anyway, he's looking at you now.
Yes.
Yes, so look at me, actually. Hello, Karl. Do I get my own microphone? No, you don't. I don't think you need a microphone of your own, don't I? No. Well, I do, really. I mean, I ought to... No, it wouldn't work properly. Anyway, so, Karl, hello. How are you? I'm not too bad. You enjoying yourself? Well, I'm enjoying this immensely. Do you ever have anything like this in your day? What, podcasts? Well, no, obviously you never had podcasts while you were alive, but I'm talking about socialist songs, music, humour, or even socialist conjuring tricks. Well, we had socialist songs and music and that sort of thing, did you? Yeah, we had William Norris. Yeah, oh yeah, of course, yeah. And all sorts of things, yeah. We didn't have socialist conjuring tricks, though. You didn't, no. Although what? Although it's a little known fact. What is the little known fact? I'm going to tell you. Go on then. Go on. You carry on. And I'm just about to go on. Why do you keep interrupting me? Well, Karl, yes, the reason. Yes, I'd like to know the reason. The reason I keep interrupting you, what is it? It's because you read, yes, I've read in the book, which ventriloquism. What did you read? I read you have to keep up. You have to keep up what? You have to keep up a quick crossflow. What? A quick crossflow. A quick crossflow of patter. Oh, I see. So the what? So it looks as though we're talking at the same time. Oh, personally, I think you should leave that out. Why is that? You think it's too illusionistic? That's building up a false consciousness in people drawn in. But no, it's not. It's just that they can see your lips moving. Do you ever thought of using a picture of Marcel? Anyway, I was going to say that I wanted my theories done as conjuring tricks. The Engels, never mind. Anyway, it goes on like that. Yeah, can I do my trick now? No, you can't do your trick now. Can I sing my song? No.
Thank you, Karl.
Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. I think it'd go better. Yeah.
Thanks, Karl.
Than what you're doing now. All right. Okay, so that's Karl Marx.
So tell me, Ian, before I rudely interrupted you, socialist magician.
Socialist magician, yeah. So how did I become a socialist magician? So the aforementioned theatre group, we did these sort of hard-hitting political plays about the industry, about the situation in Portugal at that time, which was undergoing a socialist revolution, sort of, and about multinational corporations and so on. And we'd had a probably the most popular play. We had a play about racism, which was a short play that we did on the streets and at demonstrations. Sometimes, because the people in the group knew that I did magic tricks, so at first they asked me to come in and help them because they wanted to introduce some magic into one of the shows. And then I joined the group, and then my magic was always very funny. So they said, well, can you do some magic at the beginning so that, get people laughing, get people into a good mood as a sort of curtain raiser, and then we'll do the hard political stuff. So I started doing that. And that worked good. It worked very well because people enjoyed the magic, and it created a sense of community among people. And then they listened to the political ideas and so on, and got into discussing them. The sort of politics in the group was quite hardcore in some ways, and we undertook these criticism and self-criticism sessions. It was a bit sort of Maoist, really, I suppose, influenced by anyway. So we had to criticize ourselves and one another every so often, and people started criticizing me because the magic tricks I were doing were just magic tricks. They were funny, and they said, "Why can't you get more socialist content into your tricks?" And I would say, "Well, I can't really, because I would then be demystifying, and the whole point of magic is mystifying people," and they didn't really accept this. And then eventually, I mean, in some of these sessions, I thought, I got this idea. I think I got it from Brecht, really, that if you're going to get people to be on your side more, if you criticize yourself really hard, then people are likely to, it's a dialectical process. They will disagree with you and they'll say, "No, you're not that bad. You know." So I started criticizing myself very, very strictly and very hard. And they agreed with me.
Well,
That
didn't work.
It didn't work. So eventually I was asked to leave. But around that time, there was Rock Against Racism was starting, and a little while later, the sort of alternative cabaret sort of movement started to develop. And people who'd seen me with Broadside, some of them said, "Can you come and do some magic?" So I started doing magic, and actually I started doing what they said I could do, but putting socialist ideas into the magic tricks.
And what sort of venues would you do this in?
Well, I mean, all sorts of strange venues. I did sort of Rock Against Racism gigs and other sort of demonstrations and political meetings of one sort or another. But also then the sort of cabaret movement started, alternative cabaret and comedy movement started. So, and there were people who were starting up just then, Paul Merton, or Martin as he was then, and
was he?
Yeah, he was Paul Martin at first, and all these other people. And I started doing Ben Elton. Yeah, so Ben Elton was around then, and so there was a group called Skimp Video, and Steve Gribbin, who's still doing gigs now. Lots of my friend Linda Smith, who then did a lot of stuff on Radio 4, who died, God knows, about 10 years ago. Wonderful comic, yeah.
Are you able, I don't know whether you have anything here, are you able to demonstrate any socialist magic?
Yeah, I mean, we could stick with the rope theme, I suppose.
So this is a bit of socialist magic.
So I think this is actually the first ever socialist magic trick. The trick itself is a standard trick. I mean, magicians will know this trick very well. It's known as it's called the Professor's Nightmare, but I call it the class struggle rope trick. So I introduce it and say, I don't do it so much in my act now, but I always used to do it. It's this. I say this next trick is one of the most political tricks I do. So if you're at all squeamish about politics, you should try to avoid watching this trick and the rest of life as well, actually, because this trick is an adaptation from a passage from Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels' Communist Manifesto, pages 34 to 37 of the Lawrence and Whitney. In case if you want to follow it as we're going through, or if you want to look it up afterwards, you can. So it's a trick with, although I think Karl Marx suggests you should use slightly thicker rope, but I don't think it's revisionism. I mean, we've got to change with the times. 3 pieces of rope, a long one, a medium-sized one, and a short one, and they each represent a different class in society. This very small one here, although it's very small, it is immensely powerful in our society because it owns the means of production, distribution, and exchange. This is the capitalist class, the bosses, the bourgeoisie, the very rich. Should have a wealth tax, but not doing that at the moment. This one here, somewhat larger, an amalgam of several classes, small shopkeepers, large landowning peasants. I don't go any further than that in case I offend somebody in the audience. But this is the middle classes. They don't own the means of production, just a certain amount of property, a house, a car, that sort of thing. And this one here, the largest of them all, you can't even see the bottom of it, the working classes. And at various stages, I have said many of them are out of work at the moment, but I don't quite need to say, well, they're being taken over by AI. Well, actually, these ones are being taken over by AI, but I need to have an AI piece of rope. But as you can see, there's a constant state of antagonism between the bosses and the workers, with the middle classes not knowing which side to jump on, stay there. And now, this is interesting because you won't have noticed because you haven't seen me perform, but I'm very good at dealing with hecklers. And this is because, like most alternative performers, I've been to weekend schools on heckling. We all have to sit round a circle and heckle one another and then come back with a reply that's not only razor sharp, but also politically correct, which is a very difficult thing to do. But I've learned a lot during it. And one of the things I've learned is that to deal effectively with hecklers, you must be able to anticipate, to know in advance the points in your act where somebody's going to shout something out, so that you can come straight back at them, even before they've said it sometimes. Like, for instance, I know that at this point in the act, somebody in an audience of about this size, or a little bit larger, obviously, I normally perform for slightly larger audiences. I don't know how many on the... Anyway, somebody in the audience will shout out, as they are at home now, they'll shout out, well, what happens in a revolutionary or pre-revolutionary situation then? And they think they've got me. But I can come back and I say, I'll tell you what happens. I'll tell you precisely what happens in that particular conjuncture that you've outlined so succinctly. So I'm not intimidating you at all.
Oh, I feel a bit intimidated, but I can handle it.
It's okay. I'll criticise myself later. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, as will I.
Okay.
Myself.
Okay. So what happens in the revolutionary situation? The ropes get confused. The ruling class can no longer rule. The ropes are getting confused. I'm confused. Possibly you're also confused. You have problems with ropes, I know.
I do, yes.
But
I have problems with
especially
my left and right, to be honest.
And this is the point at which the ruling class can no longer rule. It would just take that conscious effort on the part of the masses to change the whole nature of society. This is the point at which the CUC usually goes for arbitration. But if that doesn't happen, we should find that we have 3 equal pieces of rope. 3 equal. Thank you. Now, I normally get... No, well, you see, now that's the point at which... No. I'm glad you didn't clap there, because this is not the revolutionary process. The revolutionary process must continue, and indeed will continue with more confusion until eventually we should find that we have. I'm doing this. That we have just one class, or a classless society. There we are. Ooh. So that's when I get the applause. And
that was brilliant.
Yeah. But it's a very standard trick. So, and in fact, it's been used by lots of magicians to tell lots of different stories. Paul Daniels did it, and it was the 3 Bears, I think.
In today's somewhat turbulent political situation, both on the left and on the right, and everywhere in between, everyone not quite knowing where they stand or what's going to happen and the unpredictability of it all, what role, if any, do you think not just magic but arts in general can play to explain or to cajole or to soothe or whatever the role might be?
Yeah. Well, the idea that that art just converts people straight, it might happen sometimes, but mostly I'm not looking to, change people completely. There's a complex series of things that happen. People change their political understanding in lots of different ways, through lots of different phases and through many different influences. So I tend to do stuff that explains some basic principles, some basic ideas from my point of view. But largely, I did long shows. I did a show called Brecht on Magic, where I had a dummy of Bertolt Brecht that talked about. So that was partly about culture. I did a show about utopias with a dummy of William Morris called Getting Nowhere Again. So in those long shows, which were up to 2 hours with an interval, I could explore political ideas more fully. But a lot of what I do is, in a way, solidarity work. I'm Jewish, but I'm not a Zionist. I'm an anti-Zionist Jew. So I've been doing a lot of stuff supporting Palestinian causes, drawing attention to what's happening in Gaza and so on and so forth. The political situation has got more complex, clearly, but it always seems more complex than it was before. And you don't realize how much more complex it's going to get, how much more difficult it's going to get. I mean, I did a lot of, 1984, 85, I did a lot of work doing benefits for the miners who were on strike then. So, I mean, that's a lot of what I do, that I don't feel as though I'm sort of instigating political action, but I'm supporting it. I mean, I am a sort of activist to some extent as well within Friends of the Earth. I do sort of environmental activism and so on. And, within local work, local political work, I do that sort of stuff. But yeah, a lot of what I'm doing is bringing people together or supporting people who've been brought together.
Which is really important, and which I'm sure is a huge role arts play in general terms, whether it be political or not political, about bringing people together to have a live experience as a group of people.
I mean, I do. I'm going to Edinburgh this year, but and I've been several times before, and I've always taken up a new show to Edinburgh. I couldn't work out what I was saying this year. I decided not to do an adult show, but I'm doing a kids show, which I think is a nice thing to do. I like doing kids shows, and I think there is something political as well in kids enjoying.
Definitely.
Seeing somebody making a fool of themselves. So I'm doing a show, and I've written a book as well, which I'll be selling at the show.
Well, Ian, thank you. It has been amazing. Time has flown by, which is always a sign of a good episode. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and good luck with whatever you do. Good luck with Edinburgh, and I hope to come and see you at some point. You must let me know.
I will.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching this episode of the Variety Show podcast. For more information on this and future episodes, do visit our socials at the Variety Show podcast. Until the next time, thank you very much and goodbye.